I don't like crowds anymore, not since the cause. The air gets thick and noisy, and people move like a tide that doesn't care if you stand or drown. But my 6-year-old, Emma Grace, had been talking about the Texas State Fair for months. Big Tex. This and funnel cake, that until her voice was part of our house, like the creak of the screen door. She drew the Ferris wheel with purple crayons and stuck it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a cross. Sarah said, "We got free tickets from the Baptist church on Gaston Avenue. And come on, Mike, one night won't kill you." I smiled for the kids and said okay, because for Emma I'd pretend to like anything, even a boiling October night with a crowd full of beer breaths and neon headaches. We parked in a dusty lot where the heat came off the asphalt like a punishment. Dallas had one of those lingering fall days that doesn't know it's fall. My 10-year-old, Jake, hopped out of the truck with his cap turned backward like he'd invented caps. He grabbed Emma's hand, and she looked up at him like he was a cowboy hero. She had on a tiny purple cowboy hat with silver stars, glitter on the brim. Sarah brushed a flyaway strand of blonde hair out of Emma's face and kissed her nose. I checked the holster under my flannel, the compact I carried in a legal, concealed way, and felt that small, sober piece, a gun, gives a man who doesn't want to use it. "Big Tex first," Emma declared, tugging my sleeve. Big Tex was already looming beyond the gate. That giant smiling statue with a voice that rolled across the midway like a weather report. "Howdy, folks," boomed the speaker. Folks cheered like it was a church colander. The smell of frying oil and sweet batter wrapped the crowd. Somewhere to the left, a steel guitar was picking out a slow country tune, and a rodeo MC shouted into a mic about buckles and bulls. I bought Emma a corn dog the length of her forearm, and Jake chose chili Frito pie that would have set fire to a lesser boy's insides. Sarah split a lemonade with me. For a minute, with the sun sinking and the sky turning sherbet orange, it felt like we'd landed in a postcard. We hit the petting zoo next, because Emma loves anything with fur, even if it smells like a boot that's been left too long in a barn. She pressed her face to the wire and squealed over a pygmy goat wearing a bell. Inside, a fair worker handed her a paper cup of feed. The goat leaned in and, because this was our Emos, named him Captain. "Captain, you are a gentleman," she declared. Captain was not a gentleman. He snagged the ribbon tied to Emma's wrist and gave it a chew, and in that chewing, he somehow slipped the end of her hat string loose from her chin. The purple hat bobbled, fell, and rolled through straw. Emma laughed and chased it, and the goat, apparently proud of himself, head-butted the cup clean out of her hand. Feed went everywhere. Goats went chaotic. I reached for Emma, laughing, and Sarah laughed too. The kind of laugh we haven't heard enough lately. It's always the small moment you replay in your head. Later the way the goat knocked loose the hat's string, the brief bend, the reach, the way I crouched to retie Emma's sneaker at the exit gate, while Sarah said she'd buy a funnel cake big enough to bury a ranch hand. 10 seconds, maybe 12? That's what I told the rangers later. 10, 12 seconds. I tied the knot, double-checked it, looked up Emma, wasn't there. I tried light and breezy first. Daddy's done being a shoe mechanic. Jake spun around, still licking cheese dust from his fingers. "She was right here," he said, panic sharpening his voice to a point. I felt the crowd rise like a wave over my head. "Sarah," I called, louder than I meant to. She turned from the stand, a slab of powdered sugar on cardboard in her hands, looking like a saint holding a cloud. She followed my eyes to the empty space beside me. The cardboard tipped, the funnel cake slid, and hit the ground with a small thud. Powder blew up like smoke. For a moment we were statues. Then everything moved at once. Sarah screamed Emma's name, a name so small against that big, laughing fair. Jake grabbed my wrist. I put him on my shoulders so he could scan above the crowd. A move I learned after my son walked into a mailbox when he was 4. I pushed through, bodies toward the midway vendors, where bright flags flapped and people bargained for belts and rhinestone hats and little knives shaped like eagles. "You see her?" I yelled up to Jake. "Purple hat, the stars, purple, purple, no dad." "I don't, wait, no." I stopped a uniformed security guy, built like a water tower. "My daughter, 6, blonde, purple cowboy hat," I said, in a voice that hoped he'd know what to do. He grabbed his radio, spoke into it calm and professional. "Be advised, looking for a missing juvenile female, approximately 6 years. Blonde hair, purple cowboy hat with stars. Last seen near petting zoo, sir," I said. "Do you have cameras?" "We do. We're checking." "Check now, sir." "We are." Sarah's scream rose again, from back by the service gate toward the parking lot. Different pitch this time, sharp with certainty. I ran. If there's anything my body remembers from the military, it's how to run toward the sound that means trouble. The cinder block back gate opened onto a lane, lined with porta potties and a chain link fence that separated the fair from a dust-blown lot. Security lights threw an amber wash over everything. That's where I saw him. Average size, average clothes, the uniform of a man who doesn't want to be noticed. Ball cap, faded tee, jeans that could have been bought at any Walmart from here to Abilene, cowboy boots with dust at the heels. His hand locked around Emma's wrist. She wasn't fighting. She looked dazed, confused, but her mouth was open like she was trying to remember how to make sound. When trouble shows itself, the world slows to syrup. I heard the far-off rush of midway music turn to a muffled hum. I saw the man look at me, and in his eyes was nothing, not anger, not fear, nothing. "It's worse than either. Hey," I yelled. The word bounced against the fence and came back thin. My feet hit the dirt and sent up little puffs that smelled like hot pennies. The man turned his body, pulling Emma toward a black pickup with no plates, just a dealer's frame. I've hit people before, in the cause, in bars, in my 20s. Once at a gas station, when a tweaker grabbed Sarah's purse. I've never hit anyone like I hit that man. It wasn't a punch so much as a cannon shot born somewhere deep in my chest. It knocked him off balance, and he went down, and he let go of Emma to catch himself. I put my body between him and my little girl. Emma collided with my waist, and I scooped her behind me where Sarah was now on her knees, sobbing, her hands clutching Emma's shoulders like prayer. The man didn't scramble. He didn't curse. He sat up slow, dirt dusting his sleeve, and he stared at me like I was a television that had suddenly turned on. Then he smiled a little, not with his mouth, with his eyes, like he knew me and found the joke of me charming. "Come on," he said, in a voice so soft I had to lean in to be sure he'd spoken. "She belongs to me." I felt the tremor in my hands. That means violence is hunting the edges of my control. "You picked the wrong family," I told him. "I promised you," he said, still soft, like a nursery rhyme. "Daddy promised me." Sarah's breath hissed behind me. "Mike," she said, a warning and a plea. He glanced toward the truck. The passenger door hung slightly ajar. I stepped between him and that door. My hand moved under my flannel, found the familiar metal of the pistol, hesitated there like a question. I couldn't risk a shot with security somewhere behind us, with my daughter inches away, but I wanted him to know I could. He saw. He nodded like we were agreeing on a business deal. Then the universe snapped back to full speed, and 2 Texas Rangers swept in from the gate, boots eating the ground, hands sure and efficient. "On your belly," one shouted. "Hands out, palms up." The man lay down like he'd been waiting for the invitation. They cuffed him while Sarah whispered to Emma over and over, "You're okay, baby. You're okay," like saying it could make it true. The pickup was maybe 5 years old and clean as a preacher's Sunday shirt. Inside, the Rangers found a folded map with circles around parks we knew: Clyde, Warren, the duck pond near Sarah's mother's house, the Walmart on Buckner, rope taped in coils, individually wrapped candy, a small pink brush with a unicorn head, hair caught in it that matched my daughter's almost exactly, and in the glove compartment, wrapped in tissue paper like a gift, a doll, homemade, unblinking eyes. The doll wore a tiny purple hat with silver stars. Emma made a sound I have heard only once before, the day she fell off her bike and a stick jammed into the soft of her palm. She clung to Sarah's neck and hid her face. "Sir," a ranger said to me, gentler than I expected, "we're going to take statements, and then you can take your family home. We'll process him. We'll be in touch." The man looked up from the dirt as they hauled him to his feet. Close like that, I saw he was older than I first thought. Fine lines around the eyes, a day's worth of beard, a small scar under his jaw like a nick from a blade. He caught my gaze and, without moving his lips much, breathed, "I told you I'd come." He had the eyes of a dead thing. I didn't have a name for him yet. Later I'd hear one, the Whisperer. Later I'd learn he didn't just take kids, he studied them like a hunter studies migration. Later I'd remember the moment my hand almost drew my gun and wondered if I should have ended it then. With my daughter's hair still smelling like powdered sugar, we went to a small brick building off the Midway for statements. The air conditioning shocked the sweat cool on my back. Sarah wrapped a blanket around Emma's shoulders, even though she was overheated. Because that's what mothers do when they need to do something. Jake sat rigid on a plastic chair, jaw clenched, trying to be made of stone. A ranger with a sandy mustache asked gentle questions and wrote careful notes. I told him about the petting zoo, the goat, the hat, the 10 seconds, the man's voice. When I said, he told me she belongs to him. The ranger's eyes flicked up for the first time and stayed there a beat. He also said, I added, my mouth going dry, that I promised. "You ever get any letters?" the ranger asked, casual, like he was asking if I wanted cream in my coffee. Sarah and I stared at each other. We hadn't told anyone, not even Mum, that 2 months ago a letter showed up with no return address. Just our names typed in a font that looked like a machine had coughed it out. The note inside said, in all caps, "You can't keep what doesn't belong to you." There was a Polaroid of our mailbox. Another came last month. "Emma Grace is meant for better things." I'd burned them, because the fire made me feel like I could burn the idea too. I didn't tell Sarah about burning them. She found the ash anyway. "Yeah," I said, "we did. We'll want to see anything you've kept," he said. I shook my head. I got rid of them. He didn't judge me. He just wrote. We went home because what else do you do after the world almost tips off its axis? You check your locks. You sleep in shifts. You put the kids in your bed even though the parenting books say not to. Emma fell asleep with her face mashed into Sarah's shoulder, and every few minutes she murmured, like she was arguing with a dream. Once she whispered, "He said there's a pony," and my heart folded in half inside my ribs. Just after 2 a.m., a floodlight glare swept across our curtains. I went to the window and saw a cruiser idling. Sarah was in the kitchen heating milk because her grandmother swore by it. I stepped onto the front porch for air. The neighbor's pecan tree rattled in a hot wind. That's when I saw it, nailed into the siding near Emma's window. A pinhole lens, slick as a beetle's eye. I eased it out with my pocket knife and held it in my palm. The camera was cheap, throwaway, the kind anyone could order online without a name. I didn't sleep. I sat with a cup of cold coffee and my gun on the table, the way some men sit with a Bible. Around dawn, the news broke. A local Fox affiliate cut into commercials. Breaking banner, an anchor with careful hair. Alleged child predator arrested at the Texas State Fair tonight. She said, the words too smooth, escaped custody during transfer to county lockup. Authorities believe he had help from inside. Sarah's mug hit the counter so hard, milk sloshed over her knuckles. Inside, she whispered. Inside where? I didn't answer. I walked to the front window and parted the curtain an inch. Outside, the street looked normal. A jogger went by with a dog that didn't know any of this had happened. A school bus groaned to a stop 2 blocks over. But normal is a suit you wear to feel brave. Under it is the truth. We didn't go to the fair the next night. We stayed home with the doors locked and the deadbolt tested twice. The Rangers left a car on our street for a while, then moved it 2 blocks down, then, I guess, moved it somewhere they thought more urgent. Around 9 p.m., when the fair's fireworks would have been starting, I went out to the backyard to smoke a cigarette. I quit 5 years ago. I stared at the fence and the slice of sky and listened to the faint pop-pop of celebration. I heard a rustle by the alley and told myself it was a cat. I told myself a lot of things. When I turned to go back in, I saw him. Not his face, not his whole body, just the outline of a man at the far edge of the neighbor's hedge, where our yard bleeds into theirs. A ball cap, the tilt of a head like he was considering a painting he'd seen before. He raised his hand, 2 fingers in a wave. It was slow and unreasonable. A wave at a block party. The porch light spilled just enough to catch the curve of his mouth. A smile, faint and sure. I didn't yell for Sarah. I didn't fire into the night. The rules of engagement are different when your family sleeps inside and your enemy wears the face of no one at all. I raised my phone to take a picture, and between the time my thumb found the camera and the time the app opened, he stepped back and was gone, swallowed whole by our quiet little Dallas street. I took 3 steps forward. The hedge trembled once, like breath leaving a body. Somewhere in the fairgrounds miles away, big text boomed out one last good night. And in the dim, my daughter's purple hat, her spare one, the one we kept for dress-up, hung from the porch hook where she'd left it. A thin line of powdered sugar dusted the brim. I didn't sleep that night either. Part 1, Segment 2. The night that wouldn't end. I didn't tell Sarah about the man I saw by the hedge. She was already shaking apart, trying to stay whole for Emma. I told her it was probably a shadow, a neighbor cutting through the yard. I lied because it's what soldiers do when the mission is fragile. Protect morale first, then the truth later. By morning, every TV in Dallas was running the same clip. The whisperer escapes. The mugshot looked almost harmless, narrow face, dark blonde hair, eyes that photographed grey instead of the dead brown I remembered. Reporters said his real name was Raymond Clive Meeks, 42, ex-carnival hand with priors for child endangerment and attempted abduction. Released early on good behavior. Last known address, a trailer outside Waxahachie. Sarah watched from the couch with Emma curled under a blanket. How does somebody like that just get loose? She asked. Her voice cracked on loose. I didn't answer because the question had no grammar in the world I knew. The Rangers came again that afternoon. 2 men, polite but armed with the kind of stillness that says they've seen too much. Agent Hollis did most of the talking. His partner, Valdez, wrote in a small leather pad. We traced some prints from the truck, Hollis said. The whisperer had accomplices, maybe one inside the fair staff. You notice anybody watching your family before that night? I hesitated. The letters, the camera, the shadow by the hedge. If I told them all of it, they'd think paranoia was chewing on me. but silence felt like feeding it instead. There was mail, I said finally. No return address. Threats, and I found a camera outside my daughter's window last night. Valdez stopped writing. You touched it. I took it down. It's in a plastic bag. Good. We'll send a team. They left with the evidence, and the moment the door shut, the house felt smaller. Like the walls had drawn breath and were waiting to exhale. Sarah followed me into the kitchen. Do we move? She asked. And go where? He could follow anywhere. Emma padded in barefoot, dragging her unicorn plush by one leg. Daddy, she said, the man from the fair was on TV. He's not in the sky, right? No, baby, I said. He's not anywhere near us. Another lie. That night, I couldn't sit still. Every creak in the house sounded like a footprint. I walked the perimeter of the yard with the flashlight, beams slicing through pecan branches, through the still air that smelled of dust and gasoline from the highway. At the back fence, I found something small pressed into the dirt half, a cigarette butt, crushed but recent, the filter stained with lipstick. Sarah doesn't smoke. When I stood up, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Check your porch, soldier. The flashlight swung back toward the house. Something square sat against the doorframe, a small cardboard box wrapped in duct tape, the kind you'd use for shipping but without a label. My heart thudded like boots in a hallway. I dialed Hollis's number. He'd left it on his card, but halfway through punching digits, I saw the writing on the top. For Emma Grace in block letters cut from magazine print, ransom note style. Every rule says don't touch it. Every parent instinct says open it now. I sliced the tape with my pocket knife. Inside was a stuffed pony, identical to the one Emma keeps on her dresser. Except the mane was real human hair, thin, light, unmistakably hers. A Polaroid lay underneath. Emma on the Ferris wheel, taken from below. Date stamped the day before the fair opened. My stomach turned to lead. Whoever took this had been near her long before that night. I called Hollis anyway. He told us to leave the house immediately and meet a patrol unit at the church parking lot. We packed like fugitives, Sarah stuffing pajamas and birth certificates. Jake hauling the dog, Emma clutching her plush unicorn-like armor. When we backed down the driveway, headlights flared in the rearview mirror. Black pickup, engine idling, no plates. Stay low, I whispered. My hand went to the glove compartment, fingers brushing the pistol. The truck didn't move. I rolled forward, slow, pretending not to notice. At the corner, it turned the other way. Sarah exhaled only when we reached the lights of the church. The Rangers set us up in a motel near Love Field under fake names. They said it was precautionary, standard protection. The walls were painted cheerful yellow, the kind meant to trick you into forgetting it's not home. Hollis dropped off a burner phone. Use this number only, he said. Don't trust unknown calls. We're closing in on a suspect tied to Meeks. I asked who. Motorcycle crew out of Arlington. Hell's Angels offshoot. Name ring a bell? It didn't then, but it would later. Sarah lay awake all night, the TV whispering news loops, while Emma snored beside her. Around 3 a.m., I heard engine slow, guttural, more than one passing the highway behind the motel. I peeked through the curtain. 3 bikes thundered past, chrome catching the sodium light, skull patches flashing. When morning came, the news said a bar brawl near the fairgrounds left 2 bikers dead, 1 in custody. No names yet. Hollis called again at noon. We've got footage you should see, he said. He picked me up alone. Sarah stayed with the kids. The Ranger SUV smelled like dust and coffee. We drove to a field office downtown, where an agent cued a video on a monitor. It was surveillance from a parking lot camera near where I'd tackled the Whisperer. Night vision green, grainy but clear enough. First, There was me charging, the scuffle, the rangers arriving. They loaded him into the cruiser. The time stamp rolled forward 12 minutes. Then the image flickered. The trunk light of the black pickup snapped on, though no one was near it. A hand slender, tattooed with a flame pattern, reached out, grabbed the cuffed man's wrist, and snapped something into his palm. A key, no metallic glint, too small, maybe a blade. The door slammed. You see the arm ink, Hollis asked. Matches a guy named Jared Kane. Biker enforcer. Calls himself the Reaper. The name dropped like cold steel. You think he helped Meeks escape? We're certain. He's still out there, and he's connected to others, maybe running protection for the fair organizers. I stared at the screen, at that ghost green hand, freeing the devil I'd already met. By evening, the motel walls felt closer than skin. Sarah tried to keep Emma busy coloring. Jake watched cartoons with the volume low, and I sat outside under the buzzing neon vacancy sign. A Ranger cruiser idled across the lot. That's when the burner phone rang. I answered, expecting Hollis. Silence. Then, a breath, a long, slow exhale that somehow carried a smile. Mike, the voice whispered. You kept your promise after all. She's almost ready now. Who is this? You know, she does too. Check Channel 7 tonight. The line died at 10 p.m. The local station cut to breaking news. Violence erupts again at the Texas State Fair. Midway biker gang shootout. Multiple injured. The footage showed flashing lights. Chaos. People screaming near the Ferris wheel. One of the bikers in handcuffs looked straight into the camera and mouthed something before the lens turned away. Later, freeze frames hit the internet. Hollis texted me a still shot. The biker's lips spelled it plain as daylight. Tell Mike hi. The next day, an anonymous package arrived. At the motel front desk said, rest only to room 214. Inside was a USB drive and a folded page from the Dallas Morning News featuring my family's photo from the church fair fundraiser last year. On the back, written in pencil, watch me, Daddy. I borrowed the clerk's laptop. The drive contained a single video file, 37 seconds. It opened with carnival music playing too slow, distorted. The camera panned over empty fairgrounds at dawn. Then a voice, whispering, not the same one from the phone, but close. This is where you left her. This is where we begin. The lens turned toward a ride, still glistening with Duther Ferris wheel. Seat number 14. On it sat a doll, identical again to Emma's. Its head was turned toward the camera, mouth crudely stitched into a grin with red thread. The footage ended with static and the faint sound of someone humming, You Are My Sunshine. I unplugged the drive and threw it into the motel trash, then fished it back out 30 seconds later because evidence is evidence. Sarah walked in, saw my face, and went pale. What now? She asked. Nothing, I said. It's just old fair footage. But she knew. She always knows. That night I dreamt of sand. Not the desert kind, but the fairground. Dust glittered with bits of glass, glowing red under sirens. I was running again, chasing Emma's voice through tents and rides that turned endlessly in the dark. When I awoke, the clock read 3:33. A power outage had blacked out the street. Something moved outside, tires on gravel, slow, then a knock. 3 times, gentle, at the door. I raised the pistol, motioned Sarah to stay silent. The peephole showed nothing but black. I whispered, Who is it? A voice from the other side, calm/low, a drawl that tasted like dust and whiskey. Texas Ranger Hollis. We need to move you. Now. I opened the chain, cracked the door just enough to see no badge, no hat. Just the outline of a man with a ball cap pulled low and a smile too soft to be friendly. Evening, soldier, the whisperer said. ready for round 2. The door slammed shut from my side. Bullets punched through the wood like nails from God's own hammer. Sarah screamed. Emma's unicorn hit the floor. I fired back, twice through the window. Glass raining like sleet. Screech of tires, fading. Then silence, except for the smoke detector's hysterical beep. When the Rangers finally came, he was gone, again, vanished into the Dallas night that no longer belonged to anyone. On the motel wall above the TV, written in the dust, that the shots had shaken loose. Someone had traced with a fingertip for words. See you at the fair. Part 1, Segment 3. Blood under the Midway lights. The cops called it a coordinated assault on a protected witness. I called it a message. By the time the motel hallway stopped echoing from gunfire, the whisperer was gone again. The Rangers looked like men who'd swallowed glass. Hollis stood beside the bullet-riddled door, jaw clenched. He's not just working alone, he said. He's got structure money, vehicles, someone cleaning his trail. Sarah sat in a blanket beside the bed, shaking, clutching Emma so tight the kid could barely breathe. Jake stared at the holes in the wall like he could see straight through to hell. Where do we go now? I asked. Hollis answered. Back to where it started. Back to Fair Park. The Texas State Fair had been closed temporarily for safety concerns, but the rides still stood like monuments to a nightmare Ferris wheel, frozen, neon dark, wind whining through food stalls. The fairground was fenced off, though the air still smelled of burnt sugar and gasoline. Hollis and his team moved in convoy, unmarked SUVs, gliding through a service gate guarded by deputies with rifles. I rode with them, against Sarah's protest. I can't sit in a hotel while that thing hunts us, I told her. If they find him, I want eyes on it. She didn't answer, just pressed a small cross into my palm, the one Emma made from popsicle sticks at Sunday school. Bring it back, she said. The hidden tunnel we parked behind the livestock barns. Hollis led us toward the exhibition hall that once sold Texas heritage collectibles. Inside, tarps hung like ghosts. On the floor, a maintenance hatch sat slightly ajar. Valdez shined a light down. Concrete steps descended into a service tunnel. Faint generator hum. Maintenance used this for electric lines and water, Hollis said. But our tip says Meeks had accessed someone on payroll, gave him keys. We moved single file. The air thickened metal, oil, rot. A mile in, the tunnel widened into a room stacked with crates marked Carnival Supply CO. Inside, ropes, duct tape, children's clothes, IDs, and dozens of small plastic jars filled with formalin. Each jar had a number. Some had tags with initials JH, K, B, A. MGZs, Valdez whispered. Hollis crouched, picking up a jar containing what looked like a human tooth. Each initial matches a missing child report from the fair in previous years. He kept trophies. I stared until my stomach turned, then saw one jar marked EGH. My knees almost buckled. Demma Grace Harlan. But inside was nothing but a pink ribbon. He was taunting us. The tape projector sat on a table beside the jars, still warm. Hollis motioned to play it. The film sputtered to life. Grainy black and white footage. Scene 1. The petting zoo. Broad daylight. Emma feeding the goat. The camera zoomed on her smile. Scene 2. A parking lot. My truck. Me, unaware. Scene 3. Nighttime. The whisperer, sitting in front of the camera, face half lit. You can't save them all, Mike, he murmured. But maybe you can choose which one stays. He held up 2 Polaroids, one of Emma, one of Sarah. He set them side by side and drew a circle around Sarah's face with a marker. We all trade something at the fair. The film ended with static and a faint laugh that could have been mine played backward. The ambusher shout echoed from down the tunnel. Movement. Automatic gunfire ripped through the dark. Muzzle flashes stuttered like lightning. I dove behind a crate. Hollis returning fire. A figure bolted across the far end, black jacket, skull patch on the shoulder. Biker, Valdez yelled. They're here. I saw him, then a tall man with flame-tattooed forearms, firing a sawed-off shotgun. Jared the Reaper came. The same arm from the video, the Whisperer's partner. Rounds sparked off metal pipes. Hollis shouted, push left. I crawled toward an old maintenance ladder, heart hammering. My ears rang like struck bells. The Reaper ducked behind a generator, reloading. Hollis signaled. Valdez flanked. Shots thundered, echoing like thunder under the fairgrounds. Then the smell of gasoline. I turned. A drum had been punctured, fuel spilling fast. A spark from a ricochet caught, flames racing along the tunnel floor. Back! Hollis roared. We scrambled up the ladder as fire exploded below, a bloom of orange heat. The blast threw me forward onto the midway asphalt, coughing smoke. The roof below us buckled and collapsed, swallowing the evidence. The jars, maybe the Reaper too. For a minute, all I heard was the distant whine of sirens and the groan of metal giving up its secrets to flame. Aftermath. They pulled 3 bodies from the ruins, 2 bikers. One, unidentifiable, not Meeks, not the Reaper. The governor called it an isolated act of domestic terror. The news called it the Texas Fair Massacre. Sarah called it the end of our life as we knew it. The Rangers put us under deeper protection, but Hollis wasn't finished. He met me a week later at a diner off I-35, both of us pretending to eat. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, maps, names, bank transfers, all tied to Blackwood Entertainment Group, the company that owned the Texas State Fair. At the top, Josiah Blackwood, CEO, descendant of the fair's founders. They run the rides, the concessions, the leases, Hollis said, and they also fund a private charity that happens to share bank accounts with the biker crew. We think Meeks worked for them procurement, if you catch my drift. Human trafficking, I asked. He nodded. Organ, labor, maybe worse. They pick victims at the fair families, kids, teens, disappear them through the carnival circuit. Every stop a new grave. My blood went cold. Why tell me? Because you're part of this now, whether you like it or not. You saw him, you stopped him. He'll come again, and we can't watch your family forever. So what do you want from me? Hollis's eyes were tired but sharp. To help us finish it. The choice. That night I walked the motel parking lot under the hiss of broken lights, thinking about every decision that brought me here. I'd spent years teaching Marines to survive ambushes, but no manual teaches you how to fight ghosts. That smile. Inside, Emma slept, clutching the popsicle stick cross. Sarah was awake, staring at the door. You're going after him, aren't you? She said. I don't know. Yes, you do. She reached into her purse and pulled out the folded cross-eyed return, scorched at the edges from the fire. Bring it back clean this time, she whispered. I kissed her forehead and said nothing, because promises get people killed. The broadcast 2 days later, a newscaster on CNN Dallas smiled into the camera. Authorities have linked the biker violence at the Texas State Fair to an ongoing investigation into organized crime. One survivor, a local high school senior named Tyler Reeves, remains in critical condition. The name hit me like recoil. Reeves. That was the kid who'd been in the fight on the Midway the same night Emma disappeared. The one in the clip I'd seen replayed 100 times. His girlfriend, Kaylee Brooks, was missing. On-screen footage showed the crime scene, the beer tent, blood-stained asphalt, a brass-knuckle weapon bagged as evidence. Then the camera panned just for a heartbeat to a jar lying broken near the carnival fence. Its label, half-burned but legible, Number 06KB Hollis called, minutes later. You seeing this? Yeah. That's the connection. The bikers and Meeks were collecting trophies for the same buyer. Blackwood. I looked past the TV toward Emma playing on the motel floor, trying to build a Lego horse stable. She was humming, "You Are My Sunshine." Then we end it, I said. The message that night, a package appeared again. No delivererman saw it. No signature, just sitting outside the motel door. Inside was a child's fare ticket stub, scorched at one edge, and a handwritten note. Come ride the tornado, bring the family. Free admission for heroes. Underneath lay a Polaroid of me and Sarah. On our wedding day, something only someone inside our house could have taken from the mantel. I turned the photo over. Scrawled in ink, big text, says howdy. The cliffhanger. I packed the pistol, the burner phone, and the popsicle cross. Left a note on the nightstand. Keep doors locked. Don't open for anyone but Hollis. As I stepped outside, the fairgrounds glowed again in the distance. Despite the closure order, the Ferris wheel was lit, slowly turning against the Dallas skyline. Each cabin glowing blood red. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single text. She's waiting in seat 14. I started the truck. The engine's rumble drowned out everything except the pounding in my chest. Somewhere between the motel and the fair, lightning flashed over the prairie. In that brief light, a convoy of bikes thundered down the frontage road ahead of me, chrome skulls gleaming, red scarves whipping like blood. The Reaper led the pack, flame tattoos bright against his arms. Behind them, in the last bike's saddlebag, I swore I saw a purple cowboy hat with silver stars. I floored the gas.